Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Industries Live. Or if you're just joining us, welcome to Industries Live. This is a show we do every other week here on the AWS partner team, where we're talking to really interesting industry-focused partners and hearing about how they're building really compelling solutions using AWS. One of the things to note is we are live. There was a question from Frank in the last section. We are live, so if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. And if we have time and we can, we're going to get to those as well. So please keep those coming. My co-host today is Addy. So Addy, if you want to say another quick hello.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I'm Addy Dubhashi. I lead our industry solutions team as part of our Center of Excellence at AWS. And my focus is financial services. So our team works with our technology partners, our consulting partners, to really solve for those line of business challenges that our customers care about. And so whether you're in capital markets, banking, payments, insurance, you really need a solution that helps you get to your business objectives. And so it often is AWS in combination with our technology and consulting partners. In the previous episode, we had Anthropic. They're at the cutting edge of this. They are able to show customers on how to build easy to deploy templates and workflows and solve for discounted cash flow in a matter of minutes, unheard of. But it's about making sure that the wider stack and ecosystem that customers use kind of can come together for the analytics that an Anthropic can bring you on AWS. And so what I'm really excited about is talking about how do you really make this happen at scale. And so that requires us to process unstructured documents. It requires us to go through silos of data that are far across the organization. It requires us to understand regulatory hurdles and frameworks so that you can be compliant and submit those compliance reports in time. When you have if you have a lawsuit or a dispute resolution scenario, you're required to kind of retrieve those signed agreements. And so I'm really excited about our next guest with the Iron Mountain team coming on, because we're going to hear about how is this happening at large production scale and what is the potential of digitization. So I'm really excited about this episode.
With that, let's welcome on Mario. Mario, welcome to Industries Live.
Jason, Addy, thank you for having me. Really, really excited to be here with you guys today.
We're excited to have you. Mario, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Iron Mountain?
Yeah, well, before I get to kind of myself, I do want to say kudos to the Anthropic team, JP and Nick. Really interesting conversation, and really kind of love that whole cook recipe and ingredients analogy that they use. So nice job to the Anthropic team. Again, thank you for having me. My name is Mario Palarca. I've been with Iron Mountain a little over 3.5 years now. Iron Mountain is kind of on the flip side of Anthropic, where we've been in business for over 75 years, are really taking care of the most important assets from a data to documents perspective for some of the largest financial institutions across the globe. When we look at kind of just the US in and of itself, I believe of the top 20 financial institutions in the US, I believe 19 of them are our customers. So really kind of, Addy, to your point, kind of just seeing what it means on the day-to-day, seeing what it means on the operations floor, how our different FIs really kind of embracing this technology and how they are kind of applying it in a more controlled, regulated, and safe and trusted manner. As I mentioned, Mario Palarca, I've been here a little over 3.5 years, and I do look over our BFSI vertical as well. So banking, financial services, and insurance, and really taking the technologies that we have and really applying it to our largest customer problems. Addy alluded to some of the things that we have in BFSI, whether it's large documents, large data, large operating centers. So really working directly with our customers to make sure that we're driving some of those value-driven kind of additives that technology can bring to them. So, yeah, excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
No, it's absolutely exciting to have you all on. And I happen to, as part of my research for this session, I happen to check out a fascinating report that called out that there's clear intention here. These institutions that have these documents, both maintained in physical archives, but also digitized archives, they're not able to really go and transform their back office. There's intention there, there's timelines and deadlines, but it requires a orchestration between the models such as Anthropic and the technology infrastructure like AWS, and then someone who has had those documents, maintain them, and continues to manage them. So I'm really curious, have you seen that report? I think your teams have some really good insights in there as well.
Absolutely. And those kind of legacy applications or legacy workflows is really what's holding back these large FIs, right? So you alluded to a report that will soon be published, but we understand that there are close to 77% of folks believe that the digital or that the back office or the operations center should be transformed moving forward, right? With the invention of these new technologies such as agents and GenAI, folks are really understanding how AI is reshaping how they work today. It's no longer kind of like a added tool. It's really kind of the way of life going forward. Now that does bring in some interesting challenges, right? So we talked a little bit how data is the ingredient of a lot of these new technologies. And some of this data is in physical format. Some of this data is in digital format. Some of this data is in a structured format. Some of this data is in unstructured format. Oftentimes we see some of these large FIs almost like get too overwhelmed. They don't know where to start, right? And so Iron Mountain's goal is to help you understand your data in its current state and really provide some options on how to really elevate and unlock the data that you have. We agree with our previous guests that data is really the lifeblood or the gold of a lot of these new technologies. And the cliche acronym here, or the cliche saying is garbage in, garbage out, right? So it's just making sure that you're controlling the data that's training all this new capabilities going forward.
Agreed. We actually had the similar comment. Shout out to our chat of the old adage: bad data in, bad data out. So we're on the same page with that. And this report too, I know it was the big swath of the industry that was surveyed and some of those interesting insights. And I think what it shows is showing that disparity towards the back office is going to be that big focus. But right now, I think what does the report say? They're still early on into that journey. Is that right?
Yeah, well, so we surveyed over 500 leadership and kind of decision makers across 6 countries actually. US, India, Brazil, UK. So a lot of different folks kind of providing their opinions on kind of how we can use this technology. And we know the traditional is front, middle, and back office. And a lot of times the front office always gets kind of the investment. But we're proposing that in these types of technologies where you're still trying to understand how much you could trust it. You're still trying to understand how you could document the decisions being made by some of these models, how you can make it more repeatable, how you can eliminate the hallucinations still happening in these technologies. One of the things that we're actually seeing some of our clients do is they're starting in the back office. Why is the back office a great place to start? Well, it's because these are the processes that are repeatable in nature. They're document intensive. They're heavily manual and cumbersome to operate. But a good back office typically operates on high volume, low complexity, right? Versus on the front office, you're almost at the opposite, where it's high complexity, low volume, right? So when you're able to test these technologies with a large swath of scale and repeatability, that's where you can work with your regulators, your legal teams, your compliance teams, and really prove out how these technologies are operating in a more controlled manner. So that's why we believe the back office is a great place to start, just because it truly fits where we are as an organization. I know the technology is running, 1 million miles per hour, but oftentimes you've got to let all these different processes catch up, right? Whether it's the testing, whether it's the documentation, whether it's the compliance teams. There's so many kind of different examples that I could share with you, Addy and Jason, on kind of how FIs are starting to limp in and really kind of letting the other teams catch up just because of the power of this technology. But you've got to kind of let the people side and the rest of the departments really do catch up in a regulated environment.
Yeah, and I think, one of the bits I read about the Iron Mountain story on AWS, you had customer scenarios where you have to help a bank digitize, and a lot of people just don't process the scale of what you mean by the digitization of documents. I think somewhere in there was the average amount of documents digitized in a day, crosses 215,000 documents. And this is across a year of digitizing millions and millions of documents. So we're talking about massive production grade digitization, but all of it requires context. Because something we touched on the previous session with our GenAI partners, Anthropic, was the importance of context so that the model understands what you have, what you need to get to, and those previous scenarios in which you dealt with that case. So if I had a dispute resolution scenario, and I'm in, say, Europe, well, what was the protocol and the decision made for that particular dispute? And it goes back because the court is going to say, show us evidence that this was done in this order. So not only are you all doing it at scale, but the context that you add is going to be essential for any generative AI deployment in transforming both the back office, the front office. Those budgets need to go in the scale of the production workloads that are at stake here.
Absolutely, Addy. And I think a lot of folks kind of jump right into understanding and digitizing kind of the transaction at hand, right? So if you're working at claims, let's say an auto claim, or you're working a loan origination, a lot of us kind of go straight into the documents that support that transaction, right? Or whether you're onboarding a new client, you go straight into their KYC documents. But one of the things that's most important is the underlying policies and procedures that also govern the activities that handle those claims or those loans or those kind of onboarding transactions for a new customer or client. That is just as much as important as the subject documents to perform those transactions. Those will help with the context and the enforceability of those decisions. You almost kind of think about these models as another employee, right? Imagine like another employee. They probably have an HR department that you've got to work with. They have a salary that you've got to work with. They've got you've probably did some some sort of HR type checks and balances and make sure that they're a good employee to onboard. That's almost how you got to treat some of these types of new capabilities, right? Are they a new concept that I've heard is like, should you do KYC on an agent? Right? It's like, whoa, like how do you start to think about these things? Because how do you train a new employee? How do you train a new agent? It's almost kind of the same problem, the same thing we've got to work on.
Yeah. Well, especially when you talk about the scale Addy just mentioned, like just that pure volume, but then also like putting those controls in place. I know one of the areas that Iron Mountain looks to help address that is with intelligent document processing or IDP types of solution. I'm curious, how do you see that, those kind of IDP type of solutions using AWS services, how does that merge in with this kind of new world?
Yeah, so at Iron Mountain, the way we like to look at our technology is truly like a platform, because a single kind of I'll just keep going with the cooking analogy earlier. If you just have a pot, but you don't have kind of your utensils, or you don't have certain types of cooking techniques or tools that you have, it almost kind of feels like you can't deploy it, you can't enforce it, and you can't truly use it. So the way we look at kind of technology and software here at Iron Mountain truly is a platform where you can combine different tools and tricks and software capabilities to really drive that holistic value for the customer. So we talked about intelligent document processing, and we talked a little bit about digitization. A lot of these data and documents are still in the physical nature, but then also a lot of them are in that digital nature as well. But it's taking that kind of documents and turning it into actionable data. So that's where intelligent document processing comes in. You're able to take these legacy documents and really convert them into actionable and data that you could truly understand and action upon. So our IDP working with AWS allows us to classify the documents right then and there and truly extract the essential pieces of information that you can action upon. Now, when I say action, you could do a variety of things with it, right? So you could deploy workflows, you can enforce business rules, you can train LLMs, or you can trigger agents, right? There's so much you can do once you've kind of converted these unstructured data, whether it's in a physical nature or a digital native nature, and really kind of unlock what that next step is. I always tell folks, or a lot of my customers, these are just tools, but you've got to kind of identify what are the problems that you're trying to solve, or what are the jobs to be done, and then help us kind of work backwards from there, and then we'll give you the right tool to achieve that. But never forget that all these tools are meant to achieve something great, something good, and kind of just figuring out where those key elements need to play into.
Yeah, and Mario, something that we always do, right, with our partners is we really believe that our customers are going to see the most value when we share those mutual references, right? We want to show customers that, hey, you're not the first one we're all trying this out with. We've done this before. There are patterns to this, and it's been proven out. So something we always invest into is making sure that we can recognize our partners who built those unique solutions with us, but it's always backed by those customer references, validated blueprints. Backstage, you mentioned some really powerful customer references. Share a story with us. Tell us what that journey was like. I want to know, how did it start? How did it go? The hardships, what did it result in the end?
No, I appreciate that. So thank you for that question, Addy. So before joining Iron Mountain, I actually spent 20 years managing financial operations teams. And I know we kind of think about how digitalized, whether onboarding is or whether payments have been. But some of these kind of largest transactions that we have to do as an individual with our financial institutions are still very much manual in nature in the back end, right? So we may think that the front end is fully digital. You can interact with an app or you can interact with a chatbot to get a lot of these transactions done. But on the back end, all the compliance, all the manual processing, all the checks and balances are still fairly manual in nature. And that's what truly the back office is meant to live. And so I was working directly with a client who was looking at some of these documents that they were processing, and they had all these rules, right? For the promissory note, which is kind of one of the biggest documents in a lending transaction, which is the promise to pay. Are the terms correct? Is the borrower information correct? Is the rate correct? Is the monthly payments correct? What is the collateral that's backing this loan? Like, are those correct, right? And so there was all these kind of back-end processes being deployed. Well, we work with this customer to have IDP, look at the document, to classify that document, write it then and there. Oh, what document is this? Is this an assignment or is this a promissory note? Let's extract those key pieces of data. Let's kind of leverage integration points with different core banking platforms, do some reconciliation, business rule checks. Those business rule checks can enforce accuracy, completeness, enforceability. And what do I mean by that? Does the data match? Do we have all the documents in play for this specific document, for this specific transaction? And then kind of, is it enforceable? Like, if there is some sort of kind of legal proceeding that has to happen on this transaction, is it in fact valid and true? So we worked with this customer to really eliminate all those kind of manual checks and balances that they have to do to ensure that these transactions are correct. And as we look forward, this is what kind of going back to my point earlier, when you're thinking about kind of controlled environments, this is where a lot of this technology can really thrive because of that repeatable nature of it. We referenced that survey earlier, and we talked a little bit about kind of what some of our kind of surveyees said, but they also indicated that 75% of their tasks over the next 3 years will be replaced by some of these new technologies, GenAI, agentic frameworks. So it really is kind of, as I mentioned in the beginning, AI is how we work, and it's on us to kind of embrace it and really take it moving forward.
That's great insight. And just our vivid discussion has got the chat going, and I know Frank L81 has a stream of comments just sort of agreeing with sort of the complexities of the code and in implementing this on the back end. So thanks for chat for those feedbacks. Keep it coming. We'd love to hear more as we keep going.
Yeah, and I think the bit there, right, we have a global audience dialed in. I mean, we're seeing people from Asia, people dialing in from Europe and the Americas. This actually is a great segue to the way that we actually work together with our partners. So, my team manages the financial services competency, our industry solutions, and credentializing them. And so, it's a shameless plug here, but what we've seen is that it is when we've got these unique solutions well constructed, making it really easy for customers to get started, that you kind of see these snowball effects and things speed up when we can demonstrate the value together. And so something we're doing with the Iron Mountain team, also with the Anthropic team, is we're driving what we call industry sprints. These are motions where we, with our partners, will create a targeted plan for the region and say, look, here's some of the key pain areas that our customers have been asking for. We have the data of what they'd like to get to, and we set out these targeted activities, which we call as game days or immersion days. And they would say, let's go sit with our customers, sometimes in one-to-many scenarios, sometimes in one-to-one. But we're trying to say, hey, let's come together, spend that day or two, and let's try and design for you or show you the proof of how this would play out. And that really resonates. And so what we often say is, the goal is not simply to build a solution and kind of put it up on a shelf. We want to make sure that we activate a motion that can operate at global scale. So a lot of this content that we generate is intended to help us get into those customer discussions with those enterprise customers in FS and be there with them step by step. But, Mario, you're at the heart of our sprint. Tell us a little bit about that. And then we'd love to know, some of the features of the products you're taking out there with us.
One thing too, I wanted to mention, guys, that we had a vivid discussion. We're coming, probably got 3 or 4 minutes left. So I know we also wanted to show a little snippet, a little preview of the solution as well. So just factor both in. Yeah.
Let me just make one comment to react to Addy, and then we'll get the video going, because I do think that the video does speak a million words. But Addy, we're just like with AWS, we're in 61 countries, and we understand the difference between a financial transaction in the US to Canada to Mexico to Brazil to the UK. So really appreciate the global nature of this, and it's truly meeting the customer where they're at. So let me just kind of reflect that global nature comment, Addy, and then Jason, let's kick up this video just so folks can really see how Iron Mountain can truly provide these value end to end from both our software side, but also our services side from a platform perspective.
As the cost of operating document-intensive, cumbersome, and manual back-office processes continues to rise, staying competitive means finding faster ways to better manage your documents and search for information. Gain end-to-end efficiency, compliance, and easily access information, improving customer satisfaction with Iron Mountain Digital Back Office. Built on Insight Digital Experience Platform, our AI-driven solution organizes and validates digital and physical assets in your financial institution's back-office operations. From retail to commercial banking, mortgage to auto lending, and KYC to trade financing, we work with you to transform document-driven processes from painful to efficient. Harness the power of AI by automatically splitting large documents, performing document classification, extracting critical data, and detecting document manipulation and fraud, helping you limit manual processing and tedious data entry. We simplify exception handling through intelligent business rules to identify and flag only the anomalies, increasing automation and straight-through processing. Our integration with your core platform checks that every document aligns correctly with your systems of record, giving you unmatched confidence in the accuracy, completeness, and enforceability of your data. Protect your assets using an up-to-date retention schedule based on rules and regulations, confidently allowing you to govern your assets throughout their lifecycle, from inception to defensible destruction. Unlock deeper insights with AI agents and generative AI. Making informed decisions based on real-time data and trends empowers your front line to offer a better experience to your customers. Ultimately, you can find what you're looking for faster, summarize information with ease, and ask the important questions of your data to make better decisions and drive growth. Improve operational efficiency, maintain compliance, find information quickly, and deliver a better customer experience with Iron Mountain Digital Back Office.
All right, Mario, thanks for bringing that video. I think it's great to kind of get a sense of it. We kind of amped it up in terms of automating those back office processes and such. Any thoughts you have, or just kind of reflections on that and how it integrates with AWS you want to get to before we start to wrap up?
So AWS and the partnership that we have between AWS and Iron Mountain is so paramount. We truly appreciate kind of the two companies working together to truly be better together. And without Bedrock or without TextTrack, a lot of the capabilities that you saw on the video wouldn't work. So I really do appreciate kind of that ongoing partnership. In regards to the video, hopefully our audience did see that Iron Mountain likes to tackle problems holistically, right? We talked a little bit about that platform. So it's not just kind of doing point solution, but really taking a look at it holistically. Some of our solutions may involve services as well. And Iron Mountain, as I mentioned, is in 61 countries and is poised to kind of bring that physical and digital kind of solution to our customers and their back offices. So, I really appreciate, again, how we amplify each other and be better together.
Yeah, I think just to kind of look at where things would go from here, right? Which is not only do we have these well-fitting combinations that solve for customers' business needs, we're at the forefront of an agentic world. And so, historically, these workflows were heavily manual. They required several levels of pre-constructed approvals in order to retrieve a certain document. And that entitlement control is important. All of those are also within regulatory guardrails. But in an agentic world, we're going to see a lot of this speed up. We're going to see nuanced, purpose-built agents that understand a certain type of case, and it knows where to look and it knows what to get back. So Mario, maybe a minute about how do you see agentic coming up in your world, and what is the potential we have as a go-to-market to help our customers over the next year?
I think that we're just at the beginning, and I'm so excited to see where this thing goes. I talked a little bit earlier about high volume, low complexity. As this technology gets smarter and stronger, you're going to kind of bridge that into low volume, high complexity. And that really just kind of elevates how these agents will really transform your day-to-day back office processing. So, continue to dive in, folks, and just kind of help understand, but also think about it holistically. I referenced agents as a potential new employee. Like, think of it that way, because there's so much that we forget or take for granted, even down to provisioning of access to provisioning of laptops. But if you think about that holistically, the sky is the limit, and really excited where agents can truly kind of elevate not just kind of the software and the processing, but our workflows and the happiness of our employees as a whole. These are great tools. These are meant to kind of elevate our operations and kind of transform how we do our work. So it's not only just kind of the software side, but also remember kind of our colleagues on the front line. I think that's our timer.
Timer. We should go the call to action real quick. So for everyone watching, please scan this QR code so you can learn more about all the great things Mario talked about today. And we had such a great discussion, we ran out of time, which is always a good sign of a great talk. So Mario, thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you for having me. Hopefully I get invited again and we'll do it.
Absolutely. All right. With that, thank you all for watching. This has been our episode of Industries Live. We stream every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So like and subscribe wherever you're watching, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. So we'll see you then.
See you then.